Well, welcome to this very special Meet the Miniaturist today. Hi, guys, and thank you for joining at home. I have a very special guest with me. Her name is Carolyn Bergen. She is from an Instagram account called Dollhouse Art Productions. And so I'm really happy she's here today. I can't wait to introduce you to her and her work if you aren't already following her. She is based in Calgary in Canada. She loves collecting and making and refurbishing and design. There's a lot going on with Carolyn. She's an artist. She's a writer. She's an author of children's books. She's got multi-talents in terms of art and design. And we're going to learn all about how she translated that into the world of dollhousing, which is awesome. And I can't wait to bring her up. If I can, there she is. Hello, Carolyn. Thank you for joining today. So excited to have you here today.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, so you have this awesome background in art and so many skills and so many talents. And we're going to super zoom in on the miniatures, but talk a little bit about the background in art and what you started out doing. And then maybe we can transition into the dollhousing.
Yeah, well, I did go to school for many years. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I concentrated mainly on large field oil paintings, figurative, and I minored in photography. And from there, I went on to just show my work out of galleries and live the starving artist life for a while. And then I had a family, and I transitioned into actually, strangely, just making art cakes. And then I was then I got into writing and illustrating books. Just because my son had challenged us to an art Christmas where we can only give each other art gifts. And we had told each other stories when he was a little boy. And my gift to him was actually to create the toy series, the books. Bartston toys. So,
Yes, let us talk about that. So that all happened before you transitioned into sort of working in miniature?
Oh, for sure. I have only been doing miniatures for just over 2 years.
Interesting. So you wrote the children's book first, and you also
Yes.
included, from what I understand, and I've got a clip of it, of some of your miniature work that was included in sort of part of the book itself. So let's talk about that.
Right. So I did write the books first, and then I did get into miniatures. And one day I was just online and I saw this kit for the store. And I was like, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm going to build my own little Bart's Tin Toys store. And the whole premise is it's a toy store that pops up when it's needed, and every toy store is going to look different. And well, you can only get the toys from the toy store if you do good deeds. Is what
yeah. No, I
there you go.
love how you were able to just incorporate miniatures into that whole world. That's fabulous.
And some of them I made, but a lot of them I've collected from miniature artisans and going to the markets. And I really just kind of threw everything together, and I plan on doing another toy store down the road. So yeah.
So let's talk about the transition into doll housing. And so you have that beautiful house behind you. Is that part of the story and the transition to making and incorporating your work into miniatures?
Well, it's kind of an offshoot of art, but so what happened with the miniatures is I had initially made a dollhouse for my daughter when she was just a year old, and we put it in storage. And a couple of years ago we decided to pull it out and just to look at it, and we ended up looking on Facebook Marketplace and what is this worth. And I saw, a couple houses, and I'm like, I bet you I could flip those houses and just have like a ball doing it. And so I started acquiring these houses. And this one in particular is the special one because it was such a beast to bring home, for sure. It barely fit in my car, and we put it on its side, and I drove it for an hour home, and it was dark purple and green on the outside. It was just not in good condition, and the inside was all painted white, and you could tell. And the fellow I bought it from said, our grandpa built this, for us when we were kids, and you could tell he used this giant paintbrush and these
Yeah.
big swooping, strokes, and there were still bristles caught inside the paint, and it was just he just did such a great random job.
Yeah.
And I it was so huge, and I just parked it, in front of the window, and I didn't think another thing of it. But then when the sun came through the window,
Yeah. Yeah.
this house, it just took on a new life. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just the color, the oldness of the paint, but it glowed, and it had, oh my God, it had its own dimensions and its own life.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's and that's where I fell in love with miniatures. And that's, I think I entered the miniature world a little bit differently, because for me it was the light coming in the
Yeah.
windows, and
Yeah.
it was the blank canvas.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and we're going to talk about that because photography seems to be the one of the key aspects of your participation in this world. And it's
Yeah.
certainly what struck me first and foremost when I found your account. I'm like, oh my goodness, the way she shoots these miniatures are blowing me away. And so that, I think, is just that is a wonderful achievement, to be able to have that eye and see that light and say, I want to capture that. So talk a little bit about how you see miniatures and how you want to shoot them.
Well, at first, I didn't really even think of miniatures. I was thinking of this really empty house, and I started shooting just the empty house. And then I just again treated it like a blank canvas, and so I would bring the miniatures in to see how they would interact in that space, how I can photograph that, and and just create this work of art, just a lot like a painting, because with
Yeah.
painting you're just working with light, like that's the most important aspect.
Yeah.
And so that's how I approached it. And
Yeah.
and from there I started creating my own, miniatures, and becoming just definitely obsessed with the photograph.
Yeah.
And then going online and saying, oh, like there's other artists, they're making like the little vignettes, and
Yeah.
that was just like pure joy. And then I could add music and movement, and that's kind of why that's where my starting point, because it's Dollhouse Art Productions. I
Yeah.
always meant it to be kind of like a moving world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is part, I mean, they're all I had such a hard time finding favorites, but I love this post that you did. It is just it's not a simple chair, but the way you light this, the way you position it, the styling. I want to talk a lot about the styling because you there's a lot of things working here. As I mentioned
Right.
when we first got on, there's a lot working, so there's a styling piece, there's a photography piece, but this piece, it just struck me so hard, just how I don't know, talk about this. I mean, what did you
Well,
do here?
that's, yeah, one of my favorites. That's the spindle chair. So I got into 3D modeling and printing and in resin, and I absolutely fell in love. And it was a huge challenge and a massive learning curve.
Yeah.
And I find I'm learning things every day, but the delicacy of these chairs, of these prints, um that's what I'm obsessed with. And I usually will take a 3D print, and then I'll incorporate another element into it,
Mm,
like the upholstery or the bedding, or I want to bring it away from just something that's of a resin material, and
yeah.
make it a little bit more realistic. Yeah.
Which just builds upon your skills, which is the whole idea behind weathering and aging and
Yeah.
finishing, which is really helping to just propel the 3D miniatures world, bringing it to a fine art
Right.
level for sure. I mean,
it
that
it
chair is beautiful.
It is a wonderful, like it's so gratifying, because you're able, similarly to craftsmanship, when you're working with wood, like, well, you're it's a bit different. You're working with a digital, like, print, you're still designing it. You're still suffering for this tiny little miniature just to bring it to life, and it's your own creation, and it's very gratifying, and you have just this creative control
Yeah.
that I recommend to anyone. And yes, the learning curve is huge, but I think it's becoming more and more popular. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's take a look at some of the individual pieces that you do, and then we're going to take a look at sort of like the sort of the scenes that you set and shoot as videos. But I want to first take a look at the individual products or pieces. I mean, I call them products. It's just the individual miniatures and how you shoot them. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about what you make, how you make them, where you might find your materials. There's again a lot going on here. I love that wicker chair.
Right. Yeah. This record chair, yeah, it's definitely popular. I have seen it. So sometimes you can find a model online, but a lot of times you want to design your own miniatures. So you'll start with a base and you'll build on that. And it's like I say, it's a lot of work, especially the tinier, the thinner. It's very difficult. It takes more time to get it off the printer and paint it. It's
Yeah, and I imagine
yeah.
there's a fair bit of trial and error, especially with 3D printing. You might design it one way, but then you got to go back in after a prints, and you might find little, you need to make fine adjustments. It takes a while.
It really does.
It
Yeah.
does.
There's a lot of things are wood. I love refurbishing or building upon wood,
Mhm.
or cutting the wood, adding my own little elements to it. And I definitely, yeah, I'd like to distress things, and the distressed material looks good in the Garfield, because I call the Garfield my ruin because it's
Ah,
unfinished. And
yeah,
even though it might look kind of finished, it's having a transition on the outside.
yeah,
The inside of this house, which I can kind of rotate it a bit for you here,
yeah.
um, it's it's like a ruin, and it doesn't have flooring, it doesn't have wallpaper. I did go in and I cut out more windows to get in more light. So I've finished some windows, but because I do take so many photos, I'd like to be able to just switch things out.
Yeah.
So again, like just I need a plain space to build upon, so I can be really versatile. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, I missed that. What do you call the Garfield?
Ruin.
Your ruin. What
Yeah.
does that mean?
That just means when I bought it, it was ruined.
Oh, oh,
and
the
and
ruin.
it was falling apart, and this is basically how it was painted in the beginning.
Yeah.
But I reached in, I pulled out walls, I put in a couple things, but I pulled out the walls of the staircases, cut in lots of light. But like, it's probably hard to see, but the stairs, you can still see the bristles caught in the paint. And I think it just gives it so much character. It's like an abandoned house, but it lends to this beautiful background where I can just input these like perfect tiny little miniatures, and there's that contrast between something new and something old. And
Uh,
I don't that's just where my creativity falls
yeah.
most of the time. Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the light. I mean, right now, the light is beautiful and it's shining through. Talk about the importance of light to photography. I mean, I think this is probably important for anybody to hear.
Well, it's huge. I do have one studio light for my dark days, because we will get like a good week in a row of just darkness. But yeah, like even now, the sunlight is huge. It's 90% of what I do, and a lot of times I won't take pictures unless I have the natural light, because there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
And for me, it's how the light falls through the windows is similar to your own house, and that's what's going to create your atmosphere. So what
Mm.
I did, and here's one of my little photography tricks, which isn't so little, but is to put this massive house on a wheels. So it's on a rolling cart, but it
Oh.
also is on a turntable, so it pivots.
Ah.
So when the light is falling through the window, I'm following the light with the house. And
Oh.
one of my favorite things to do is kind of counterintuitive, but is take my shots directly into the sunlight
Oh.
and play with the, if it's windy outside and the trees are moving, well, that's going to give me so much movement.
Oh.
And it's inspiring, and it's I can
Yeah.
be there for hours just sitting there moving this
Yeah.
house around, getting like a better shot and a better shot, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's for a photographer, it's so, yeah, you don't rest until you get that one shot that's like, oh yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you make it look very easy, but I can totally imagine how difficult it is to not only set up these shots, to style it, but then capture it in the most amazing light. I'm
Yeah.
amazed. I'm just
Well,
amazed. Like that, we
sometimes,
just saw that the sunshine coming through, and there's, I don't know, there's the little bubble. I mean, this is crazy.
yeah, it can be a rush. So at certain times of year, you only have limited amount of light. And again, my favorite light is sunlight. So I'm setting up scenes, and I need to keep the house fairly empty, because if there's light coming in one room and not another, then I'm rushing and I'm taking miniatures and I'm literally relocating them very quickly. It turns into a little bit of a disaster, but
Wait,
that's the
explain
name
that
of the
again. So, explain that. So you have the room set up one way or not set up?
it. Like, I might, like, I'll have an idea, like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I've built this chair that, I know I kind of want it by this room and this in the background, but then I'll wait for the light to come through, and then I'll rotate and I'll move around, and then I'll take so many shots. I might take 30 or 40 shots for each item,
Wow.
and video, and
Yeah.
then I'm gonna compile those things, or I'm gonna throw most of it away.
Wow.
But it's that the joy of being able to create and use all these different things,
Yeah.
like the throwing the pottery and the sewing, and the 3D modeling and the building, and it's all forms of art. It just gives
Yeah.
you access to everything, and it's
Yeah.
really is, yeah, it's
Oh,
just
that's just, I
yeah.
can tell it brings you lots of joy. And that is what this is all about at the end of the day. So is most of your collection in that house, or you have a stash? No, she laughs.
No, my house is my storage facility. No, I have, they're like, I actually have 9 houses in this
No, you
house,
didn't tell me that.
and they're strategically here and
Oh,
there. One of them is a shelf just for products.
oh,
The other is like I'll, in the summertime, I'll take them outside, I'll paint them, and then I'll have to store them. It's that's another great point about miniatures, is like, you don't really necessarily have to start and finish a product, like a project, all in one spot, all at one time. I have so many different projects going on at the same time, and it's really, what do I feel like today? What am I going to do? Like, what's the plan? And it's like being like squirrel, like you're here, you're there,
yeah,
and it's like, it's whatever you want, and
yeah,
you're sharing it with like the amazing community online, and
yeah. That
it
get it.
really is a different art form, and it just brings everything together.
For
Yeah.
sure. Oh my gosh, 9 houses. Wow.
Yeah.
So do you use special equipment, or are you on an iPhone?
No, yeah. So I do have the equipment, like from school and whatnot, but really the most important thing I have is my phone,
Serious.
because of the video quality of that
Yeah.
phone. Not only that, but the phone just gives really great access into the inside of the dollhouse. So
So you can get
another
in.
one of my tricks is
Yeah.
such a basic thing, and it's really just this tiny piece of foam core, which is really interesting. But my phone has a stand on it. So
Uh-huh.
what I'll do a lot of the times, I'll stand my phone on the end of this runway,
Yeah.
and then it slides into the house. So you want to get your steady shots in. You don't want the bumpy ones, right? Which
Oh
we all
wow.
have anyway. But so I'm able to take my phone, push it inside the house, pivot it around, smoothly. And
Yeah.
that's when it's like all these different tricks.
That's an awesome tip.
They're unlimited. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm hearing, I just want to like rattle off some of the tips we've heard. So you can use an iPhone for video.
Oh, I recommend for sure.
Sunshine and sunlight is probably the best. And I think that's, people
Yeah.
don't know that, but if you could shoot in real light, fabulous. I love the trick about keeping things smooth and putting it on the end of a board or something to stabilize. What else are like really key things for people to, let's say people who want to shoot their miniatures better, get better at it? What would you recommend?
I think primarily it's you want it if you're shooting a film, you want it steady. And I know we all we bump around, we're trying to get the phone to the house, and a lot of the time it's like you just need to brace your phone, you need to brace your arm. A lot of times I'll put like a mirror, something really slippery inside the house just to pivot on the mirror. Or just two smooth things just pivoting on each other. Again, I shoot directly into light, and a lot of people will be like, well, this is, it doesn't make sense, I can't see anything. But it's the pivoting, and it's using, putting furniture in front of the sun and watching, the rays come out the sides. And that's what gives it, I don't know, a little bit of magic and dimension. And it's lyrical, it's narrative, it's anything, like a book. I think miniatures just bring everything together into unlimited potential.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think we just saw a really great example of how you shoot into the light. I guess the very, very first image, like we can see the burst of light and then the contrast with the shadows. It's just beautiful.
And pivoting, and then the smaller the little even the bars on the windows, or if you have a planet, or if you have something that you can shoot through to give it more depth. And it's so much more fun, and I guarantee you'll spend unlimited hours sitting in front of your house.
You're giving folks something else to obsess on, as we already are obsessive in the miniatures world for sure.
For sure.
But you know what? Your work is just fabulous. It really is. I mean, just at every step and every stage, just from the content to all the way up to the photography and sharing it is just beautiful. You do a lot of tutorials on your Instagram, is that right? Or at least you share a lot of in progress, which I really like.
A few things. I know I'd like to do more. A lot of times I'll catch myself, and I know so much of the community out there, and I'm still learning from them, and I feel almost like, to put a tutorial out there, it's like, am I giving them new information, or, I'm not sure. So
I think folks just want to hear from you sometimes. They might not even really want the tutorial. They just like to hear from you and maybe how you do it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's content, and your fans are going to want to hear from you in every which way you decide to share, is my point of view. I'm not going to make a floor, but I loved watching your floor video. I think it was the tiled floor you were laying. I'm entertained by that.
I could definitely fill up many hours of just doing stuff.
Exactly.
It might not be pretty stuff, but it's how I do it. And
oh my goodness. All right, so we shared the beautiful Garfield. I'm so glad we got a chance to see that. I can't believe there's 8 others. I did not know that. That is awesome. So what is next for you? What are you? Can you tell us a little bit about what you might be working on and where we might see you? Because I know you've done a show up in Canada, but you've never done a U.S. show, correct?
I've done 4 Canadian shows, and I loved it. It was amazing. I love to meet people out and the artisans and the people who aren't online. These people, they've done this for so many years. There's so much to learn from them. And I would love to go to the US. I'm still fairly new, I think, here. So I am going to the IGMA. So
yes, you're going to Guild School. Tell us about that.
Yes.
So your first experience in Castine, and what classes are you taking?
I absolutely love soldering metal
Ah,
together. So I did take the one class for that, and the basket weaving. I think I would just love that. So that's
yeah.
what I got into. But I'm really just more thrilled just to be there and like meet people and
You're
learn.
just gonna have an awesome time. It's the best week
Yeah.
ever. It's not a joke. I mean, it's not cliche. It's the best week of the year if you're a miniaturist. Um, so where can we find you? We're gonna put links below. I know you have an awesome Instagram account, so folks can see. We just shared a touch of what you. All of your images are beautiful. All of your videos are beautiful. I mean, you could spend
Thank
just
you.
days looking through it. So Instagram, but where else can we find you? And also, do you sell your work?
Yes. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok. I just got onto YouTube, so really new there. Um Pinterest. I'm huge on Pinterest. I love being on there. And I have my own Etsy store. And my Etsy store is called Dollhouse Art Products.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you
Yeah.
take commissions if folks see something that they like? Maybe it's not available. They
I
can.
do.
They can.
I do, and I have for sure.
Wow.
And I love to create new things, and I do have like so many more things coming out and not listed yet. And there's not enough hours in the day,
Yeah,
so
there's not. Especially if you
yeah,
love doing what you do, let love doing it. There, it's endless. I mean, it is endless what you can do, and isn't that awesome?
yes, yeah, very
Yeah.
happy.
Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing your talents and your beautiful work with us. We will continue to follow you on Instagram and other channels. We'll put them in below, and hopefully one day we might get to meet you at one of the shows here in the U.S.
Oh,
But
I'm so
or folks who are going to Guild School, they can see you there. Um,
definitely.
but thank you so much. This has been awesome. Thank you, and
It
have a great
is.
rest of your day.
Thank
Thank you
you.
at home for watching. Really appreciate it. All right, bye, Carolyn.
Bye. Thank you.